swords and stones in the dead of night, rolling dice under flickering light. Gamers' hearts pounding in their chest, chasing glory, never letting it rest. Roll the dice, fight the beast, legends born and released. Raise your blades, feel the fire, dreams of heroes climbing higher.
Good day everyone, Tim here from Swords and Stones. So I posted a 20-minute video the other day on rolling up new characters for my solo adventure. After watching the video playback, I realized it was kind of all over the place. So I'm going to do another one today, and hopefully you can follow it along a little bit easier. So I've already rolled up the characters sheets, and I filled in I've got two trackers because I've got 4 characters, and my tracker sheets only cover 2 at a time. But I'm going to go through the process just to give you a quick rundown as to how we create characters, not only for just a solo, but in Swords and Stones in general. So let's walk through Tanir's. I'm using just the simplified side-facing PC sheets, just because they're a little easier to read, easier to fill in, but it's just your preference. I have the full kind of character sheets, lengthwise portrait style as well. So for rolling mods, unlike the OG game, we don't roll 3d6 down the line and then go look on a table to see what that number is just to figure out what the modifier is. Instead, and I borrowed this from several independent game creators in the last couple of years, we just roll the modifiers. The reason for that is because in our system, 2 hit is based on the DC per level, and that's down here. So at levels 1 and 2, characters need a DC of 10 or better. 3 and 4, they need 11 or better. 12 for 5 and 6. 7 and 8, they need a 13. 9 and 10, they need a 14. And the reason it goes up is because the monsters or NPCs that you are put up against, their skill level goes up. So it only makes sense that they're a little more difficult to hit. Same goes for monsters. So they start at 12 and they go up by 1. So they're 2 points higher than each level for player characters. So they start at 12 and it's 13, 14, 15, and 16. So that's what they need to try to hit player characters. So again, it goes up because player characters go up in skill. And so when we roll combat and roll against the DC and armor class, which we'll get into, that's what you use. Okay, so starting off just with the modifiers. So technically, all we do is we take 66, 5, and 6. Now, so if you don't have 6 D6 at home, then just roll 1 3 times, or 6 times, or 2 3 times, or whatever you got. So I take 66 and roll. And then you kind of use a scrap piece of paper, write down what your numbers are, and you go from there. And you decide, okay, well, how? Now, our characters are classless, so you're not, based on your rolls, you're not going to be fixed into one typical style of character or trope, basically. You can do anything. So you can use weapons like a fighter. You can find spell stones and wield magic like a magic user. You can find heal stones and wield healing powers like a cleric. And you can do all those with one character. You don't need to be one typical style or trope of player character in order to do that. So we have no classes. So based on that, you look at your role and you decide, okay, well, how do I want to play my character? So again, the emphasis is on how you play your character, not necessarily what your character's 5-page background already is. You're going to be building that as you play in Swords and Stones. But my recommendation, even in the guidebook, I recommend that whatever the highest roll is, you put that in your constitution. Okay, so for Tanir, their constitution is a 6, so they got a wicked high roll. Now, we base our armor class, which is your constitution, and you add your type of armor that you're wearing, which in our system gives you a modifier adjustment. You also add a shield or a helmet. At the first level, you pick one or two of the other, but you can find them later on. So you take your constitution, you add your modifier adjustments of your type of armor and your shield and your helmet, and it gives you your armor class. In this system, armor class is a defensive modifier. So when you are playing, we roll 1d6 every turn when you're in combat to determine if you attack or defend. So if you're in the midst of combat and you are rolling your attack defense each turn, it doesn't really matter what level you are and how many hit points you have, because if you roll defense each time, so my first turn in combat, I roll a d6, I roll a 4, 5, or 6, I'm on defense. So if I'm on defense, now we take the 2 d20s. We roll 2 opposing d20s for combat, one for attacker, one for defender. So we roll those. And on your d20, you have to make the DC for your level, which at level 1 is 10. Okay, for Tenier, they're at level 3, so it would be 11. And then you add your armor class as a modifier to your d20 roll. So I need an 11 or better. My armor class is 12. I've already beat my DC for the level. So really, a defensive roll should be just a mute point. So if I'm on the defense, I make my defensive roll automatically. So what that means now, because I'm successful at defending myself, whether that's a partial defense by deflection, or let's say when the monster rolls damage, they only roll a 1, then I get no damage because we deduct the damage point. So for the first 4 levels, you deduct 1 damage point. So the monster will roll a d6 because they're attacking and they made their attack, so they're rolling damage and they roll a 4. I automatically make my defense, so I only get 3 points deducted. And that's kind of how that works. And that goes up by levels as well, and that's in the guide as well. So at the higher levels, you deduct 3 points because the damage is higher. When the monsters at the higher levels, they go from 1d6 of damage at the first level to 2 to 3, 4, and then at 10th level they're rolling 5d6 damage up to 30 points of damage. So it's nice to have that little deduction if you make your defensive roll and you partially deflect or partially defend yourself, and then at least you know that that's going to come off their damage so that you're not going to die immediately. Now, doesn't mean you won't. It just gives you a little better chance. So that's kind of how armor class works, and you can read that in our guide. And then, of course, the rest of this, your level 3, so your max hit points is 22. Hit points go up just by 1d6 every level. So player characters start at 10. They go 16 for second level and 22 for third level. Monsters start at 12, so they go 2 hit points higher. Second level, they're 18. Third level, they're 24. So again, now their hit points are higher. Their difficulty challenge is higher. So it's not as easy to kill the monsters off all the time. And that goes up every other level. So it's just one little thing of quote-unquote balance to make it more difficult. Having said that, though, if you're in combat and you're on the defense for each round, at the first, especially the early levels, you could die within 2 rolls. So you got to make you a thinker more than just a murder hobo. Okay, so we've rolled the mods, and like I said, they have 6 for the Constitution. We've rolled on the player creation page in here, and we've decided we rolled a d6 and we rolled a 6, so they've got plate mail. So that's why they have plate mail on their character sheet. And you add that modifier to your Constitution, and then they have a shield and a helmet because they're third level. They've accumulated 1. Altogether is 12 for armor class, so that's pretty darn good. Especially for third level, because you automatically make your defense roll and you deduct a point off of the damage coming from the monsters. And then we roll on weapons as well. So we roll here as to what kind of weapon that you want. And I say to pick 2. Oops, go away. I say pick 2. So you can either pick 2 or you can just roll random. So roll a d8 twice, and away you go. So for Tenier, they have several weapons because this character I've already been using in this solo. And they started out with a sword and a dagger, and they picked up a battle hammer, and they got bow and arrows from one of the previous characters that died off. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell for rolling up a character. It's really simple. It really takes very little time. When you're rolling up characters, when you're playing in person, it's on average it's about 5 to 10 minutes per person, and that's really nothing. Because your characters start out as just plain adventurers. You don't worry about backstory. You don't worry about the lore as much. It's just let's get in and play. And you, as a player, build your character's backstory, and the lore of the world on Ambien is created by your play, by your game sessions. So that's kind of how I approach it. So, as you can see, we've got 4 characters written up. There's Tanir there, and I've added 3 more characters because in the previous solo session, her 2 compatriots got killed off. Their 2 compatriots, my bad. So they went back to the Citadel, and they acquired 3 more compatriots to come back and help them clean this vacation Deadzone away of all the creatures that are plaguing it right now. And these 3 that they've brought back with them are seasoned warriors, and that's why they're wearing plate mail as well, and they are decked out and ready for battle. Bale is a little less experienced, as you can see. He's got a wooden sword. He doesn't have full plate. He's only got partial plate, but he still technically has plate armor, so I'm giving it to that character. And I did that because of the avatars that I had available that I picked. So when I rolled up these characters, I initially started by rolling and seeing what armor they would wear, based so I could see if they had different armor classes. But then I'm looking at the avatars and go, the heck with it. We'll just give them all plate mail. I'll give them all a better chance to survive and get through all this. So that's pretty much it. Now I use a tracker for all the characters, especially when we're playing our regular sessions. I do my regular sessions of Swords and Stones Sunday evenings online with 4 people because we all live out of town. So, but it's the same. This is the tracker that I use. So I have the player's name, the character's name, what level they currently are, their difficulty challenge based on the level, their max hit points, and then I'll put in here their current hit points. So if they have 22 max and they're down to 15 out of 22, that's kind of how I would do it, like that, just kind of to keep track. Their armor class, of course, their experience points. Now experience in Swords and Stones goes up 1,000 per level. So you start at 1,000 at level 1. If you want to start at level 0, that's cool too. And then accumulate 1,000, go up to level 1. Yeah, that's all good. It's not in the guide, but everybody can homebrew however they like. So basically you get 1,000 experience points, you bumped up a level. You get to level 4, and then you have a list of specialty skills that you can choose to add some, I guess in modern games would be called feats. But for us, it's just special skills that you can use to try to enhance your character. And that builds up your character's personal lore, personal background. And we'll go through that later on. But you can go we have a guide walkthrough on my channel where you can find all that as well. So here we have Tanir, we have Kip, and on the second page you have Carter and Bale. Names I just got from random tables. Usually I'm pretty good at picking them out of the air, out of my head. But so the basic stuff I list on these pages, like I said, their level, their DC, their hit points, the type of armor, what the modifier is, the weapons they currently have. If they have any spell stones, we list them here when they're identified. If they're not identified, we'd put the number of how many unidentified spell stones they have. Because in this system, when they find a red stone, they don't just automatically know what it is, not like reading a scroll. They have to attune to it. So humans are the only ones that can do this on Ambien, the only ones that can use the magic. So they attune to that by rolling your D20 against your DC of the level, which in this case would be 11, and adding your intelligence modifier. So as long as you go 11 or higher, you've identified that stone. And then we roll on the spellstone list to figure out what spell it is. It's not automatic, it's random. So you roll a d6 for the group of spells and a d10 to see which spell it is. And we do that for each stone. So whenever there's some downtime in a game, especially when I'm playing with my regular group, I say, hey, you guys got some unidentified stones. Do you want to take some time now to try to identify them? If they fail to identify it, it doesn't do anything to the stone. If they use the stone in the lower levels, once it's used, most of them are a one-time use. It gets used, whether it's successful or not, then it turns gray, becomes a rock. At level 4, there's an option as a specialty skill to memorize stones. Heal stones are a little different. Once a heal stone is used, same idea, it turns gray, becomes a rock. But if you fail to attune, or if you fail to successfully use it, because you have to also roll a d20 and add your intelligence for spellstones and wisdom for healstones to successfully use it, not just to attune to it, but to successfully use it. And with healstones, if that fails, it's not a big deal. You put it back in your pocket, you can try again next round. But with spellstones, once you've attempted, if it fails, it just becomes a rock and you have to chuck it. So adds a little bit of tension. It also adds a level of exploration because characters don't automatically have them. They have to go looking for them. Also, Ambite, the local gem stone on Ambien. This is used as not as currency, but humans have the ability to change Ambite into gold by attuning to it. Not all of them, but some of them. And when it's changed into gold, it becomes more sought after by the locals now that they figured out that can be done. Not for currency, but because they can, gold being a softer metal, they can actually mold that into shiny objects, jewelry, goblets, what have you. And Ambite itself can also be manipulated and chipped away at and turned into weapons and stuff like that. Then you have a spot there listing magic items or weapons. So that's just kind of what I need to look at as the game host to get an idea of what my characters are running with. And then you change it, you erase or you delete whatever they've used. Tracking arrows and stuff like that would have been another good one to be added onto this, but that's something you can add to it if you'd like. So that's pretty much it. And then we get back into this game. I'll try and get back into this solo game hopefully next week. But I just basically wanted to do a quick little video showing how characters are rolled up, whether it's for solo or whether it's for a regular game. Pretty simple. So just to review, get your mods. You roll 6d6. You write them down on a piece of paper. Ooh, look at that, they're stacked. Let's roll that again. You roll them. Ooh, that's an awesome roll. 3 6s, a 5, and 2 4s. That's an incredible roll. 6 is the maximum modifier that you can get for any one of these. Now, that's awesome when it comes to strength, because obviously you roll your 2 opposing d20s. You add your strength modifier to that if it's melee. If it's a range weapon, we add our dexterity to it. So if you have 6s there, I mean, you're gonna pretty much make your DC almost every time. But yeah, so you roll those, you write them down on a piece of paper, decide where you want to put them, and that kind of, when you're doing that, it kind of helps you decide how you want to play your character. What do you want them to be? Do you want them to be a warrior? Do you want them to be a wizard? Or do you want them to be a healer? Now, again, they can be all three, but one of those could be your focus based on what your dice rolls are. And then I put them in the tracker as the game host, and we go from there. The current version of Swords and Stones is version 9, and it is hyperlinked. So when you download it, you can just buzz through all of this really quick. One of the things I added was quick reference tables on the inside front covers, so you don't have to scroll through the whole PDF to try to find stuff, or if you've printed it off, you have most of your stuff listed here. There's also Game Host or Dungeon Master screen inserts that you can download as well from the itch page. Okay, so that was a quick burn through on how I roll up characters for both solo as well as in-person games. Any questions, leave me a note. And yeah, we'll go from there. Like, subscribe, say hi, and I appreciate everybody popping by. Keep them rolling, gang. Have a good day.